Maybe we can just take a few moments and talk about the state of the alliance today and the strategic environment in which we're operating. As somebody who poured so much into the alliance, what do you feel about the state of the alliance today and how far we've come, and maybe some things that you're both impressed with and some things you think we still need to work on together?
Well, the state of the alliance is really strong. You see, the outcome, result of the opinion poll taken by the Cabinet Office November last year, but then the outcome was released this past February, according to which the approval rate and popularity of the United States and Americans to Japan and the Japanese was as high as 88.6%. And comparative figure to China, the record low of 20.6%. 88.6% versus 20.6%. And those who claim for the further strengthening of the US-Japan security alliance is 92%. I think this is very reciprocal, more or less, and so at the other end of the Pacific, in your country as well. But having said that, though, the one opinion poll, which was taken several years back, but ever since the newer opinion poll was taken, question was addressed to 64 countries, including Taiwan. And the question was, are you ready to fight yourself if foreign power make an aggression to your home country? To this, Chinese and Russians, I really don't know how this opinion poll was taken. Incidentally, opinion poll was taken by BBC International several years back. Chinese and Russians, 80% or plus said, yes, we are ready. And Americans, 55%. French, 38%. Koreans, 42%. Germany, second lowest, 28%. We are ready. Japan was the lowest among the 64, including Taiwan. The number was 11%. On the other hand, the different opinion poll taken quite recently showed that 83% of Japanese would like to be born again as a Japanese if there's a second line. The same, and the answer to the same question by Koreans is 70% plus. Koreans say, we don't like to be born again as Koreans in the next life. But this Korea says, 42% of Koreans say, yes, we are ready to fight for our country. Japan, just 11% of the Japanese say, we are ready to fight for the company. There's the kind of, quite a bit of a gap between these two figures. That's the kind of thing I have to, for Japan to keep in mind. In the case of emergency, what we should do under the US-Japan alliance and to maintain the effectiveness and credibility of the US-Japan alliance.
Do you think we have a shared understanding of what Xi Jinping and China is up to? Do we share a common view of the challenge, and if not, where would that gap be? Because I think at a foundational level, having a shared understanding of the strategic environment, which I think is being driven by China's assertiveness and their ambition, is critical before we even think about alliance activities. Are we on the same page on this critical question?
I think there's a pretty good shared perception between the United States and Japan toward China, for that matter to Russia as well. Actually, from around the 2015, 2016, 2017, at that time, the threat perception toward China was, I think, higher among Japanese intellectuals than among American counterparts. American guys and professors and officials, whoever's, they are more lenient to China, in my view, than Japan at that time. These days, recently, after the Trump administration, this seems to be reversed. But anyway, by and large, we share the common perception that the preoccupation number one, or challenge number one, facing Japan and the United States, short, medium, long term, is China, not Russia, not other countries.
And within that broader set of challenges, you and I over the years have talked a number of times about threats to Taiwan. And I would say, you know, the interesting thing about being a political appointee in the United States is you go into government, work 2 or 3 years, leave, come back, you know, some amount of time later, and you get snapshots of where things stand. I would say the issue of Taiwan has moved the furthest in the U.S.-Japan dialogue and the perceptions of what our alliance should be thinking about and preparing. Is that, would you share that view? Has Japan's views changed on this or evolved, or is this a matter of a subject that was maybe difficult because of Japan's history there, the previous colonial era, the desire not to confront China or anger China too much, but these sentiments were already there, or is it China's activities and behavior that have heightened Japan's sensitivities to the security interests and what Taiwan represents?
Well, there is a kind of difference between the well-informed, well-educated people and others in Japan. But among those educated Japanese people, pretty much a sense of an apprehension, anxiety towards China. You see, there's a common feeling among the, I think, the Japanese that China can be further prosperous, or China can be less prosperous in coming years. But whichever they may be, China's foreign policy and China's security policy will be aggressive, never benign. The poorer China become, China will be increasingly more aggressive, never benign in their foreign policy, security policy. And China becomes further prosperous, the same. China's foreign policy and Chinese security policy, security strategy will continue to be, or even more aggressive. Never we can expect it to be benign. So no benign China on that sense, on that score, for many more years to come. And on the Taiwan incident,
Yeah.
on the Taiwan, yes, the Japan-Taiwan relationship, not just at the sort of central government level, but the people-to-people level, it's very good. Very much like our relationship with Australians and the Americans and Australians. And there's a very warm spot in our hearts for Taiwan. But what we can do in the event something happens in Taiwan or Taiwan Straits, what Japan can do may be limited. But at the same time, we have to do something. We have to do something. We have to beef up our defense and capability. That kind of sense is being heightened in Japan these days.
Thank you. Of course, another issue related to China and the overall security environment is the potential for Russia and China to emerge out of this conflict as even closer strategic partners, maybe the hierarchy shifting with China becoming even more the senior partner in the relationship. But for many years, we tried to caution ourselves about our policies and to avoid driving China and Russia together. It seems that whether it was environmental conditions or policy or whatever it might be, they are firmly together, and China is sticking by Russia in this conflict in Ukraine. What does that mean for Japan? Do you assess it that way? First of all, that their strategic partnership is more meaningful. What does that mean for Japan, and what does that mean for our alliance?
Well, of course, we have to be better prepared for anything which might happen in this area after this Ukrainian aggression and the strengthening, quote unquote, strengthening of China-Russia relationship. And they can inflict quite a bit of bad things on the US, on Japan, on Taiwan, whoever else in this region. However, medium long term, I don't think that China and Russia can maintain a long-standing sort of relationship with each other. You see, Russia, its GDP, as many people observe it, the Russian GDP is smaller than South Korea. Republic of Korea ranks only 12th or so in the world. And the Russian economy will be drastically down after this Ukrainian situation, which means even if the relationship tie between China and Russia gets stronger, it means more that Russia become an apparent little brother to China, which doesn't fit with the sort of pride, the leader like Putin. Junior partner, little brother, he hates that kind of concept, don't you think? China will also be quite annoyed by this move of Putin. Although China has to take a sort of neutral stand for some time. Putin and Russia might turn out to be a sort of burden on China. That's a possibility there. And also there's India. This is another important factor. When we think about three countries, China, India, and Russia, Russia-India relationship is strong through military deals. Indo-China relationship is difficult because of Kashmir. So all in all, I think medium long term, I'm guardedly optimistic. No such a strong development of the good relationship among these three. The problem more or less rests with the short-term thing. Short-term thing, incidentally, includes China might do to Taiwan in a couple of years and several years' time.
Do you see this as entering a new Cold War? In addition, what should the United States and Japan do to jointly enhance deterrence to prevent China from taking similar actions against Taiwan? We'll start with you, Ambassador.
Okay, thank you very much. That's an excellent question and a difficult question for me to be a full answer to that. However, the situation is not just back to the Cold War. It goes back to way beyond Cold War, even the time of First World War, Second World War, before Second World War. In that whole international order meets the sort of challenge. Look at how United Nations Security Council did not work under these circumstances. And two permanent members out of five, most responsible nations for the peace and stability of the world. They are defying the international law almost on a daily basis. Typical case is Soviet Union. Therefore, on the one hand, many things we have to do. One, we have to really give us serious thoughts what the United Nations should turn out to be in order for that to be more effective, universal international organizations who can do something good to stabilize the situation in Ukraine or wherever else, that kind of thing. But in the short term, I think, yes, it's an alarm bell is ringing, and this is in the benefit of Japan and the United States. Time for further strengthening of this alliance by more precise analysis on what the roles and missions of the United States and Japan should be under the circumstances in concrete terms, force structure, and something like that.
Thank you. We have another question from the audience. How do you believe Japan's views of the People's Republic of China has evolved over the last 20 years?
Well, as I mentioned in the initial part, Chinese popularity of the China and Chinese People's Republic of China and Chinese are very much down in Japan, and 20.6% according to an opinion poll. In the same opinion poll, the popularity to the United States and Americans was 88.6%. So this gap, see, in 1972, this is incidentally, this 1972 is a very meaningful year. As Dr. Schriver mentioned, baseball, this is the 150th anniversary of baseball having come to Japan from the United States. And this is the 50th anniversary of Okinawa reversion. The Ryukyu Island chain, administrative rights over them, was returned back to Japan through peaceful negotiations. Peaceful negotiations, territory Japan was lost is back. This can be possible. This was possible only under the US-Japan strong alliance. Compared to that, what's going on with the northern territories between Japan and Russia? What is happening to the Senkaku Islands between China and Japan? This really, under these circumstances, the importance of the US-Japan alliance is outsticking in the eyes of even among the ordinary Japanese people on the street. So Japan's sentiment toward China is getting very low. It's reducing very quickly. And I hope this should be kept at some reasonable, rational level, but somehow it's going down and down right now. China is clearly the challenge number one, preoccupation number one for Japan. That perception is pretty widely shared among the Japanese.